I'm a German science teacher, and I have studied chemistry and physics, and therefore I also teach chemistry and physics in our school. It's a gymnasium here in Germany, in a city called Pforzheim. Physically speaking, the wet bulb temperature is the lowest temperature that can be achieved by evaporative cooling. So it can be calculated by combining two effects, the effect of temperature and relative humidity of the air. And this is especially important for the human body. So imagine a thermometer with a wet cloth around its bulb. So usually you don't have a thermometer which has something wet around it. But imagine, as the water evaporates from this cloth, it cools the thermometer and the temperature will lower. We humans know this effect very well from sweating. Sweat cools our body by evaporating water. So the lower the humidity in the air, the faster the evaporation will occur, and the cooler the wet bulb temperature will be compared to the actual air temperature. So there is a difference between the so-called wet bulb temperature, and the thermometer with the wet cloth, and the so-called dry bulb temperature, which is the measured temperature as we usually know it. So wet bulb temperature is crucial because it tells us how effectively our bodies can cool down through sweating. When the wet bulb temperature is high, it means that the air is already quite saturated with moisture, and making it harder for our sweat to evaporate and cool us. So the higher the humidity in the air, the higher also the wet bulb temperature. And the less cooling effect we can achieve with our sweat. So this can lead to heat stress, or even heat stroke, or even death if we are not careful. Understanding this wet bulb temperature helps us to make informed decisions about outdoor activities, our work, and how to protect ourselves during the hot weather. So climate change is causing more frequent and intense heat waves, which in turn raises the wet bulb temperatures. As global temperatures rise, the more moisture will be in the air. And this leads also to higher humidity levels. So this combination of heat and humidity increases the wet bulb temperature, making it more challenging for our human bodies just to stay cool, especially during the already mentioned heat waves. So to make it a little bit more clear, when you combine extreme heat with high humidity, you get a dangerously high wet bulb temperature. And this happens more often than, for example, 10 or 20 years ago. So the critical wet bulb temperatures for humans is generally considered about around 31 degrees. So inside our human body, we constantly are producing heat, waste heat, because our heart is working, our brain is working, and we have to transport this heat away. And if the wet bulb temperature is getting too high, the body can not longer cool itself and get rid of the waste heat. And when this about 31% threshold has reached, the risk of heat stress and related health issues become very severe. However, this can vary depending on factors like age or health and acclimatization. And environmental conditions like wind and sun exposure can also influence how we experience the heat stress. Even slightly lower wet bulb temperatures values can be dangerous if we are exposed to them for extended periods. So to stay safe in extreme heat conditions, it's hard. So, but some points are essential. First one, you have to know the facts and to make informed decisions. The second is, of course, you have to know the weather forecast to be prepared. If you are inside a heat wave, just stay hydrated. So drinking enough water is crucial. Avoid intense activities during the heat peak because human body produces more heat waste. Probably seek air-conditioned or well-ventilated environments. And at last, wear some lightweight, loose-fitting clothing, and using fans or cool showers can also help. So to my surprise, there were many, many examples all over the world, even in our current year 2024, and even in the last 2 months. So let's begin in the United States. In June, there had been temperatures about 48 to 50 degrees in Southern California, and especially in cities like Palo Alto or even Las Vegas. So I had some students talked to her, which had been there at 48 degrees. And she told me that you cannot move anywhere, so you have to stay inside, and it's not possible to make any even walk or go something. And so it's a very severe situation. So we have also the Southern Asia regions, which are also heavily affected. For example, Delhi in India, or Dhaka in Bangladesh, or Pakistan, or even southern China regions. In India and Pakistan, and we had about, you cannot imagine, 50 degrees and 50 degrees of Celsius. And one further more example, in Mecca during the Hajj this year, we had temperatures about 53 degrees. No one can even imagine how to survive under such conditions. And last but not least, we also have severe heat waves in Europe, especially in Spain, Turkey, and even Greece. And many tourists were dying because they were not accustomed to these facts, for example, of wet bulb temperature or higher temperatures. So I think we should familiarize ourselves with the changing climate conditions.